The air at St. Dominic's Catholic Church in Lekki Phase 1 was thick with incense, whispers, and carefully practiced tears. Inside, the pews were packed. Fashion executives, politicians, influencers, relatives, all gathered to mourn Victoria Umeh, the glamorous CEO of Naya Couture, who was believed to have died in a tragic car explosion along Lekki-Epe Expressway just 2 weeks earlier. But the woman they had come to bury was sitting right there with them. At the back of the church, slouched quietly on the last pew, sat an old village woman with a torn head tie and sun-worn skin. Her eyes were hidden behind dark shades. Her wrapper was faded. She blended in with the poor mourners, ignored by most, pitied by some. But she was not old, and she was not dead. She was Victoria Umeh. Victoria had faked her death. Her heart had whispered for months. Something wasn't right. Her husband, Charles, once gentle and affectionate, had become cold and calculating. Her best friend, Vanessa, who once curled on her couch every weekend, was now always hovering around Charles, laughing too hard at his jokes, whispering when she thought no one was watching. And her parents, Chief and Madame Umeh, kept asking for more money, more gifts, more connections. Never a "how are you?" Only "send us 10 million by Monday." Victoria had built her empire from scratch, from a tiny boutique in Surulere to global runway recognition. She made sacrifices, burned nights, lost friends, and yet, despite her wealth, she was deeply alone, a possession to the ones closest to her. So she planned it, a staged crash, a body burned beyond recognition. Her driver was paid off and sent abroad. Her lawyer, Barrister Olumide, helped secure the death certificate. Everything was perfectly orchestrated. Now, sitting among her mourners, she watched the show. Her mother, dressed in heavy lace and a head wrap taller than necessary, wailed loudly at the front pew, stealing glances to see who was watching. Her father, Chief Umeh, sat still, calculating, unreadable. Victoria's eyes shifted to Charles, clad in a sleek black agbada, eyes hidden behind designer glasses. But what struck Victoria the most was the woman sitting beside him. Vanessa. Dressed in a black fitted lace gown, she clutched Charles's hand. They sat close, too close, and when they thought no one was watching, they smiled at each other. Victoria's chest tightened. It hadn't even been 2 weeks. Not even the dust on her grave had settled. Yet here they were, shameless and unbothered. Like her life, her name, her love, meant nothing. Then her gaze found a ray of truth, her younger sister Zara. Slender, in a simple black dress, eyes swollen from weeping. Zara walked to the coffin. She knelt and pressed her hands on the closed lid, whispering through sobs, "You promised me, Vicky. You promised you'd be there when I graduated, when I got married. You said you'd never leave me. How could you go like this?" Her cries echoed through the hall. Some shifted uncomfortably, but Victoria, she nearly broke. Her fingers clenched her wrapper. Her eyes filled with tears. Zara loved her, purely, sincerely, without asking for anything. And in that moment, Victoria knew Zara was the only one who had lost her. The rest, they were mourning the loss of access, the fall of a financial pillar, a door that had closed. Victoria inhaled deeply and leaned back. She had seen enough. This funeral was not about grief, it was about possession. But the woman they buried too early was still watching, and her silence would not last forever. The funeral crowd had begun to thin. Luxury cars purred out of the church compound one after another. Yet Victoria Umeh, still cloaked in her disguise, did not move. She waited quietly under a mango tree beside the car park, her ears sharp, heart heavy. From behind dark sunglasses, she watched the people who mattered most linger, Charles, Vanessa, and her parents, Chief and Madame Umeh. They didn't even glance at the casket anymore. Their eyes and minds had already moved on, to her assets. Her mother spoke first, lips painted bright red even in mourning. "Now that it's done," she said sharply, "we need to talk about the properties. The Banana Island estate, the boutique headquarters, the luxury cars. She had no child. That wealth belongs to us, her family. Excuse me? Charles stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. I was her husband. We were married legally. I have rights. Chief Umeh scoffed. What rights? What business did you bring into this marriage? My daughter fed you, clothed you, built your business. If not for her, you'd still be jobless in Acacia, chasing cheap contracts. Vanessa stepped in, her tone cutting. Let's be clear. Victoria told me herself she wanted me to manage some of her businesses. I was her closest confidant. I deserve something too. Victoria nearly gasped aloud. This woman, my best friend, claiming my legacy in the open? Her father's laughter was harsh. You, what kind of friend tries to take her dead friend's company? You two, he pointed at Charles and Vanessa, are nothing but opportunists. The argument heated up. Voices rose, fingers pointed. No one mentioned Victoria's dreams. No one spoke of her struggles, her sleepless nights, her moments of breaking. It was all about assets, not memories. Then, like the first wind before a storm, Zara appeared, her face pale but determined. She stood between them. This is not the time, she said quietly but firmly. You're acting like vultures over a body that is still warm. Her mother snapped, Zara, keep quiet. You're too young to understand these matters. No, Mama, she said. I may be young, but I was the only one who truly loved her. You all took from her. Only I gave to her. Love, listening, loyalty. She told me her fears. She told me she was drowning. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Oh, please, spare us your soap opera. This is adult talk. You're not even family, Zara snapped. You should be ashamed. Charles stepped forward. Zara, don't disrespect her. She was close to your sister. Victoria's hands curled into fists behind the wrapper. Defending her? Right in front of my family? Zara's voice cracked. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. She promised me. We were supposed to open a charity arm of Naya Couture together. She wanted to teach girls how to sew, not leave behind a battlefield of greed. Her knees buckled. She burst into tears and ran off. Victoria took one step forward instinctively. She wanted to run after her, embrace her, reveal the truth. But she stopped. Not yet. Instead, she turned her eyes to her husband, her friend, and her parents. She had died only in the newspapers. But now the woman they buried too early was wide awake and watching. The drama had only just begun. A low evening breeze swept through the marble-floored living room of Victoria's Banana Island mansion. It should have been quiet, grieving, sacred. Instead, it echoed with ambition and deceit. Charles, seated on one of the Italian leather couches, held a tumbler of whiskey with shaking fingers. Across from him, Vanessa scrolled through her phone, legs crossed, her silk robe revealing just enough to remind him why he chose her. They had buried a woman, but what they were really burying was conscience. She's really gone, Charles said, staring at the chandelier above. No stress, no divorce, no scandal, just gone. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. Isn't that what you wanted? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he sipped. Yes, he finally replied. I was tired of being her second project, her charity case. Vanessa shifted closer. But now you're free. We're free. Everything she owned, this house, the brand, the lands, it's all coming to us. Charles sighed, still wary. Her parents are a problem. They think tradition will hand them everything since there was no child. And Zara, she's just a girl, Vanessa dismissed. Crying doesn't make her powerful. She has no money, no lawyer, no voice. Charles gave a weak laugh. Still, the parents won't let go. Chief Umeh told me to my face I was nothing without Victoria. And was he lying? Vanessa said sharply. Charles stiffened. Vanessa softened. Look, baby, I know the truth hurts, but we made it. You're not the boy from Acacia anymore. You're the man about to take over a fashion empire. Thanks to her. Charles turned to her. And you were always the one I wanted. Then why marry her? She had the name, the access. I needed the life. But you, Vanessa, you were always the fire. Vanessa's lips curled into a smile. So when do we make this official? As soon as the property transfers go through. The lawyer says it'll take 2 more weeks if nothing delays us. Vanessa leaned back, dreaming aloud. And after that? Dubai? Paris? Our own label? Charles nodded. Everything. First class, new passports, new life. Then his tone darkened. But if her parents keep pushing, I'll deal with them. I've spoken to someone. Vanessa sat up. Someone? He handles things. He'll scare them. If that doesn't work, he'll make them disappear. She blinked, stunned by his coldness. Then slowly she smiled. That's my man. There was silence for a few beats, the kind that sits in the room when something unholy has just been spoken aloud. Then Charles whispered, And Zara? She's soft, Vanessa said. We can buy her silence. Give her one shop, a car. Maybe send her abroad. And if she refuses? Vanessa shrugged. Then she becomes collateral. Charles stood up and stretched, looking around the house. All of this, he whispered, is ours now. She worked like a donkey, but I'm the one who'll enjoy it. That's what she gets for loving blindly. Vanessa laughed. And what about love, Charles? He looked at her and said, Love is for the rich, and now we are the rich. Outside, the waves crashed softly against the Banana Island shore. But within those walls, a storm of betrayal, lust, and greed brewed. What they didn't know was this. Victoria was alive, and every step of their plan was being watched. The Umeh family house in Surulere used to echo with music, fashion deliveries, and the aroma of Victoria's famous Sunday stews. Now it echoed with tension. Zara sat cross-legged on her bed, holding a framed photo of her and Victoria at the Nea Couture Lagos launch, both smiling, laughing, hopeful. That night, her tears refused to stop. Her chest ached not just from grief, but from betrayal. She remembered Victoria's last call weeks before the accident. Zara, people around me are changing. I don't know who to trust anymore. She had warned her about Vanessa's long stares, about Charles's growing coldness. But Victoria had brushed it off. They'd never do that to me, she'd said. A knock interrupted her memory. Her mother entered, arms crossed, expression hard. So this is where you've been hiding? She snapped. Mama, I'm grieving, Zara said. Grieving won't bring money. Your father and I are out there fighting for your sister's inheritance, and you're here crying like a child. Zara slowly sat upright. Fighting for her money, not her memory? Madame Umeh raised her chin. Yes, money. Or would you prefer that Charles and that snake Vanessa take everything? Zara's voice shook. Is that what she was to you? A wallet? She was our daughter, her mother said defensively. And yet she barely sent us anything. She gave everything to that man and his girlfriend. Now that she's gone, we deserve compensation. Zara blinked. Compensation for raising her? Her father walked in, uninvited. Your sister ignored our advice. We told her not to marry that jobless boy. Now see where that got her. If she had listened, maybe she'd still be alive. Zara stood, her voice rising. Maybe if you had loved her without asking for something in return, she would have felt safe. Her father stepped forward. Don't talk like that. We're doing what's best for this family. No, you're doing what's best for your egos, she fired back. All you see is land and cars. None of you have lit a candle for her soul. Madame Umeh sneered. You're sounding just like her, romantic and foolish. And you sound like strangers, Zara said quietly. You buried your daughter and became vultures. I won't be part of this. Her mother's voice rose. Zara, don't you dare walk out on us. Zara picked up her bag. Then disown me if you must. But I won't sell my soul for an inheritance. Where are you going? To someone who understands grief. Someone who doesn't see my sister as a bank account. Madame Umeh's lips twisted. That boyfriend of yours in Yaba? That one-bedroom tech boy? Zara paused at the door. Yes, that one. The one who never asked me for money. The one who helped me build myself without guilt. You'll end up like Victoria, her mother shouted. Zara turned, her eyes steady. If ending up like her means being kind, generous, and strong, then I'll proudly carry that name. She walked out and never looked back. Later that night, in a modest apartment in Yaba, Zara lay silently on a worn sofa beside her boyfriend, Tope. He didn't ask questions. He just held her while she cried. Under a cracked ceiling fan, she whispered, Vicky, wherever you are, I'll protect what you built. I'll protect your name, even if I have to do it alone. She didn't know that miles away, Victoria, sitting in her hidden home in Ikoyi, was watching Zara's recorded confrontation through a planted audio device left in the Surulere house. Tears slid down her cheeks. She wasn't alone. Not truly. Not anymore. Charles sat in the back seat of his black Lexus SUV, parked just outside a high-rise office on Adeola Odeku Street, Victoria Island. His jaw clenched. His fingers tapped nervously on the leather armrest. The inheritance process was moving too slowly, and his patience, already thin, had worn out completely. He had expected the property titles, the company shares, and the bank access to be his by now. But Barrister Olumide Onabanjo, the aging family lawyer handling Victoria's estate, had stalled everything. Legal reviews, he'd said. There are complexities, he'd warned. No, but Charles knew the truth. The man was a wall in his way. He marched into the lawyer's office without an appointment. The secretary tried to stop him, but Charles brushed her off like dust. Barrister Olumide looked up from his desk calmly as Charles stormed in. You and I need to talk, Charles said, seething. I don't take unscheduled visitors, Mr. Umeh, the lawyer said flatly, not looking away from his file. I'm not here for tea, Charles snapped. I'm here to tell you to stop dragging your feet. Victoria's properties, her company, her estate, those things are mine now. You know it, I know it. So let's cut the drama. The lawyer finally looked up, folding his hands. Victoria was my client, Mr. Umeh, not you. I will handle her affairs according to her instructions, not your impatience. Charles leaned forward, lowering his voice. I can pay you a very generous sum. Just help me move things quickly. Nobody has to know. Olumide's eyes narrowed. I'm a lawyer, not a street trader. Everyone has a price. Not me, and you should be careful what you imply. Charles slammed a palm on the table. You think I don't know what's going on? You're hiding something. You and Victoria were close, maybe too close. Maybe she was planning to remove me from the will entirely. That's why you're stalling. You want to cut? Olumide stood. Slowly, his voice was cold steel. Get out, Charles scoffed. I see. Maybe you need a little push or a warning. Are you threatening me? The lawyer said, coming around the desk. No, I'm promising you. Get out of my way, or get buried with your files. Security escorted Charles out, but the damage had already been done. That night, on his way home from a late appointment, Barrister Olumide's car swerved unexpectedly on 3rd Mainland Bridge. The brakes failed. The car spun, flipped, and crashed into the concrete divider at high speed. Witnesses said it was instant, no time to scream. The morning headlines read, Prominent Lagos lawyer dies in tragic brake failure. But Victoria, watching the news from her Ikoyi apartment, didn't believe it for a second. Not after seeing Charles's face on a hacked office security cam. Not after hearing every word of their heated exchange through the hidden bug in the lawyer's office. Her heart pounded. They had crossed a line. But what Charles didn't know was that Olumide had a son. Enter Barrister Tunde Onabanjo. 4 days later, a tall, calm man in a sharp navy blue suit walked into his late father's office. Barrister Tunde Onabanjo, 31, sharp-minded and soft-spoken, had just buried the man who raised him alone. A man who had taught him integrity above ambition. Tunde walked straight to the bottom drawer of his father's old mahogany desk, unlocked it, and pulled out a thick file. Confidential, Victoria Umeh Estate. Inside it were handwritten notes, digital voice recordings, backup keys, signed declarations, and a sealed letter addressed to him. He opened it. Tunde, if you're reading this, it means something has happened to me. Be cautious. The man named Charles Umeh is dangerous. And if Victoria ever contacts you, believe her. She's smarter than all of them put together. Finish what I started. Dad. Tunde exhaled deeply. He picked up the office phone. This is Barrister Tunde Onabanjo. Effective today, I am taking over all legal responsibilities in estate management for the late Victoria Umeh. All prior arrangements remain valid. No delay. He looked down at the file, eyes dark with purpose. Let the real game begin. Back in Banana Island, Charles popped champagne, celebrating the lawyer's accidental death. What he didn't know, he had just made an enemy more powerful than the man he killed. And Victoria? She wasn't hiding anymore. She was gathering. The soft hum of a luxury generator filled the air in Ikoyi, where the villas stood tall and silent behind high white walls and motion-detecting lights. In one of them, behind frosted glass windows and thick drapes, Victoria Umeh stood barefoot by the balcony, watching the moonlight stretch over the quiet lagoon. Her face, once a public symbol of Lagos luxury, was no longer on billboards, in magazines, or splashed across Instagram. Now it was hidden, soft, scarred by grief, sharpened by betrayal. She sipped tea slowly, her body wrapped in a silk robe. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello? A calm male voice responded. Good evening, Miss Umeh. Or should I say, Madam Victoria? Her heart skipped. Who is this? Barrister Tunde Onabanjo, son of the late Olumide Onabanjo. My father was your legal counsel. I have the full estate file, and I believe you're not dead. Silence. Then softly, where did you get this number? From your old emergency contact record in his secured archive. The man you trusted raised me to protect people like you. Please, I want to help. I also believe Charles murdered my father. Victoria's throat tightened. The silence held. I'll send you an address, she said finally. Come alone. No one must know. That night, 10:43 p.m., a silver Toyota Corolla with tinted windows rolled into the gates of a private estate. The guards opened the gate without a word. A man stepped out, tall, dark, with thoughtful eyes and a leather briefcase in hand. Tunde approached the door. It opened before he could knock. And there she stood, Victoria Umeh, alive. Her skin glowed faintly under warm lighting. Her eyes, once dazzling with ambition, were now heavy with quiet fire. You're real, he said. You too, she replied. They sat in the soft-lit living room. Minimal decor, no noise, only truth. Tunde pulled out his father's handwritten letter and placed it on the table. Victoria read it and blinked back tears. I knew Charles wanted me gone, she whispered, but I never thought he'd go that far. Tunde leaned forward. He did, and I believe he paid someone to cut the brakes on my father's car. I've submitted a quiet report to 2 police officers I trust. We're building a case. I faked my death because I needed to see everyone's true face. My parents, my husband, my best friend, she choked on the word. They all showed me who they really are. I saw the funeral footage, Tunde said. Charles and Vanessa were basically holding hands at your coffin. Victoria nodded. They moved in together 2 days later. They believe everything is theirs now. Tunde took a breath. Do you want revenge? No, she said with surprising calm. I want justice. I want the truth to bury them, not bullets. I want them to see me walk through the front door with the law behind me. He smiled. That I can help with. Their eyes met. A brief flicker passed between them. Not romantic, yet, but something raw and real. She stood and walked toward the window. I gave Charles everything. Love, trust, legacy. I gave Vanessa my closets, my passwords, my soul. They looked me in the eye and betrayed me. She turned to him. But I also gave my sister my promise, and I intend to keep it. Tunde stood. Then I'll walk this road with you. She gave him a small, grateful nod. As he turned to leave, she whispered, One last thing. He looked back. Whatever happens, protect Zara. She's all I have left that's real. I will, he said, with my life if I have to. As he stepped out into the cool Lagos night, the gates closing behind him, Tunde knew. This was no longer just about property or family secrets. This was about restoring a woman's stolen dignity and ending a cycle of betrayal once and for all. The walls of Victoria's Banana Island mansion hadn't known peace since her death. Where once flowers filled the hallways and seamstresses bustled around with fabrics and sketches, silence now reigned, broken only by the ticking of the grandfather clock. Until now, today was the will reading. Zara, dressed in a simple navy gown, arrived early with her parents. Chief and Madame Umeh were unusually quiet, their grief finally seeming less performative. Their eyes darted around the familiar home, unsure of what they would gain or lose. Barrister Tunde Onabanjo stood at the head of the large conference table, a leather file open before him. His expression was unreadable. Everything has been verified, he announced. We will begin shortly. Before another word was said, the heavy glass doors swung open. Charles entered, beaming in a dark green agbada, Vanessa on his arm in a custom black dress. Both wore sunglasses, indoors, oozing arrogance. Zara's heart burned at the sight. Charles walked up to the table and smirked. Let's not waste time, barrister. I'm ready to sign. Vanessa added, and I hope my name is mentioned. Victoria and I were very close. Tunde didn't respond. He looked at the door behind them. Then it opened again. Hearts stopped. Feet froze. Victoria walked in, alive, dressed in flowing white, regal and silent. Zara gasped and shot to her feet. Vicky! Madame Umeh clutched her chest. Chief Umeh fell to his knees. The gods! Vanessa stumbled backward like she'd seen a ghost. Charles's mouth dropped open. His eyes darted to the exit, but it was too late. Victoria walked to the center of the room and turned to face them all. Her voice was calm and piercing. I'm not dead. I never was. But something else will be buried today. Your lies. The room was silent. Charles finally stammered, Victoria, what is this? She faced him. This is justice. She turned to Vanessa. You cried at my coffin while you shared a bed with my husband. Vanessa dropped her handbag. You wore black lace to my funeral, thinking you had won. But sweetheart, black doesn't crown a queen. It exposes a widow in denial. Vanessa tried to speak, but the shame stuck in her throat. Just then, police officers entered. Mr. Charles Umeh, the lead officer said, stepping forward. You are under arrest for the murder of Barrister Olumide Onabanjo. You have the right to remain silent. No, Charles cried, backing away. I didn't kill anyone. She's lying. Actually, Victoria said, reaching into her handbag, you're the one who lies. She pulled out a USB drive. This contains a recorded conversation between you and your fixer. Your voice, your words, your plan. The officers grabbed Charles, who screamed, Victoria, I loved you. I did this for us. Victoria turned her back on him. Vanessa backed away, pleading, Vicky, please. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. He manipulated me. Victoria cut her off. Save your breath. I forgave myself. I forgave God. But I will never forgive you. As Charles was dragged out and Vanessa slumped to the floor in disgrace, Zara ran to her sister and held her tightly. I knew you weren't really gone, she whispered. I felt it. Victoria hugged her, eyes wet. You were the only one who saw me, even in the dark. Tunde stepped forward and opened the will. Shall we begin? Victoria nodded. But the truth had already been read. The house was still. After the chaos of the will reading and Charles's arrest, the Banana Island mansion felt like a new space, no longer haunted by betrayal, but filled with the weight of truth. Victoria stood quietly in the same living room where Charles and Vanessa had toasted to their future. Now she watched the past wash away, one truth at a time. A knock at the door. Chief and Madame Umeh entered slowly. No lace, no pride, no perfume. just humility. Chief Umeh removed his cap. My daughter, he began, we failed you. We buried you with our greed. And we didn't mourn your soul, only your assets. Madame Umeh, eyes red, stepped forward. We were angry, not because you were gone, but because we couldn't control what you left behind. I'm ashamed. I was your mother, but I acted like your debtor. Victoria didn't speak for a moment. Then, you lost me before the accident, when you made love a transaction. When you asked for more, but gave less. You saw me as a tree to shake, not a daughter to know. Madame Umeh knelt down. Forgive me. Victoria knelt with her. I already have. They embraced, real, trembling, silent. In the weeks that followed, Victoria chose peace over publicity. She didn't press charges against Vanessa, who now wandered at Jagunle, pregnant, abandoned, and living in a one-room flat. The city that once cheered her fashion style now whispered her shame. Vanessa wrote messages. She called. She waited at Victoria's gate, wailing. Victoria never opened the door. She didn't need vengeance. Her silence spoke louder. Meanwhile, Zara was thriving. Victoria transferred part of the Naya Couture company to her, not out of pity, but pride. The younger Umeh's sister, once ignored, was now a co-founder of the newly launched Naya Girls Collective, a free sewing and mentorship program for young women across Lagos. Zara stood strong, loud with kindness, fierce with grace. And then there was Tunde Onabanjo. He had never asked Victoria for anything, not her money, not her favor, not her attention. But his quiet support, his unwavering presence, became the one thing she had always craved: safety. They spent slow evenings walking by the lagoon. He listened to her silence. She healed in his presence. One night, under the stars at Obudu Mountain Resort, where the trees swayed with the breath of freedom, Victoria whispered, I once loved a man who saw my crown and wanted it for himself. But you, Tunde, you protect it without touching it. He held her hand. Because I don't want your empire. I just want your peace. They married in a quiet ceremony with Zara as maid of honor and Tope, Zara's steady love, by her side. No media, no limelight, just truth. The sun dipped gently over the rolling green hills of Obudu, casting golden light over the peaceful grounds where Victoria and Tunde had started their new life. There was no paparazzi, no fashion labels to model, no boardroom battles. Just stillness. Victoria now lived a life of intention, not intensity. She managed her businesses quietly, from behind the scenes. Her focus had shifted from runways to legacy, from survival to impact, across Lagos. Zara, now the co-founder and director of the Naya Girls Collective, ran mentorship workshops every Saturday in Surulere. Hundreds of young girls, some orphaned, some abused, some abandoned, now had hope stitched into their palms, learning to sew, to dream, and to lead. Taupe, always supportive, stood by her through it all. Their home became a haven, filled with laughter, jollof rice aromas, and soft jazz. As for Vanessa, her name faded from memory. No one returned her calls. The influencers unfollowed, the banks closed in, and the man who got her pregnant never returned. She often stood outside Victoria's old boutique in Victoria Island, staring into the windows where mannequins wore the life she could have had. But the glass never opened again. She had betrayed the only woman who truly loved her, and karma had done the rest. Charles, locked away in Ikoyi prison, he spent his days haunted by the face of the woman he buried too early. He had traded love for lust, legacy for lies, and his freedom for 15 minutes of power. He heard whispers through the bars of a new lawyer fighting for Victoria's brand across Africa, a lawyer named Tunde. He stopped eating for 3 days after that. Back in Obudu, Victoria stood barefoot in her garden, tea in hand, watching the flowers dance. Tunde stepped out with a newspaper. Lagos News, Naya Girls opens 5 new training centers. He smiled. Your name still makes waves. She smiled back. Good, but it's no longer about me. It's about the girls who need what I never had, someone to see them early, before the world tries to bury them. He walked over and placed a kiss on her forehead. In that moment, beneath the soft sun and the humming breeze, Victoria Umeh knew. She had lost everything. But she had found everything that mattered.